All right. I'm here with Susan. She's the scribe of the Druid Order. I want her to talk a little bit about that as we get through. Um, Sorry I look ridiculous, but whatever gets the clicks, right? That's it's showmanship is the most important thing. So if you wouldn't mind, could you kind of introduce yourself a bit, kind of why you got into Druidry or Druidism, and talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. So, yeah, I'm Susan. My function is as the scribe of the Druid Order, um, which there are three of us that run the Druid Order. There's the chief, the Pendragon, and the scribe. So, my role is the scribe. Yeah, and I've been involved in Druidism for a very long time since I was a teenager. I first came across it. Um, and I was interested in, discovering different kinds of meditation. And I tried lots of different, like transcendental meditation and different Buddhist meditations. And then I went to a public meeting of the Druid Order and did
Mm.
their meditation there. And it was just like, oh yeah, this is it. This is the one.
You found it. Yeah,
I
nice.
did. Yeah, yeah. It was the one for me. So yeah, that was really cool.
Okay. So what do you do as the scribe?
So the scribe is the recorder. So I kind of represent the members of the order to the rest of the triad is part of it, and I also do deal with communication to a great extent. So I manage the website and write to people and kind of communicate. So I send out the information about the rituals that we're going to have and the ceremonies that we're going to have, and kind of I'm the first point of contact for a lot of people these days. Yeah.
Okay. You're kind of the public face. Well, you're very well spoken, so I can see why they stick you out in front. They're like, "Here, recruit everybody. You'll do great." So one of the major reasons I'm interested in Druidry or Druidism, which do you
We
prefer?
prefer Druidism, I think. Yeah.
Druidism. Okay,
Mm.
Druidism is I think you guys are really good at syncing up with nature. Is that accurate? Is that one of the main things
Yeah,
that go on there?
it's absolutely core to being a druid, that connection with the natural cycles and the natural world is absolutely fundamental to who we are. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed when I try and sync up with nature a little bit more, I'm a little bit more happy. Is that is that the point? Happiness? Are you trying to find joy, or why be a druid?
Why be a druid? Well, to be a druid is to be a kind of companion of people working towards the light, is how we'd put it. And in that
Okay.
work, we find joy. Yeah. So joy comes about, I think, by, learning more about how to express your purpose in your life, and also how to, connecting with nature. And the joy in that is absolutely core. Yeah.
Okay. So, wait, what is the light? Is that just like a general term, or is there a specific thing in Druidry that is the light?
Well, the light would be that which we contact our inner source. Our inner source is the light. I mean,
Ah,
the reason I think that the sun is such a potent source for light is that it's the center of our solar system. So it represents everything that revolves around and radiates on everything. So if we can find that light within ourselves, then our life, works in harmony with the universe.
mm,
And we're always looking for those kind of connections between how the natural world functions so beautifully and how we can kind of function that naturally and beautifully as well. Yeah. Mhm.
okay. So it's kind of finding like your inner light, your inner joy.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Uh,
And learning to express that better and better in our lives. Yeah.
I like that a lot. So if you align with nature, then you can kind of uh, find your inner light.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
awaken the true good within you type of thing. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, that's a really
somewhat
good way of
accurate?
putting it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I I want to talk to you a little bit about the summer solstice that's coming up. So you host an event at Stonehenge, is that correct?
We do, yeah. We're, really lucky to be able to go to Stonehenge and do our ritual there. And it's such a great time of year to be doing this podcast, isn't it? Because it is the
Yeah.
kind of the zenith of our cycle and our sequence of ceremonies. Yeah, the summer solstice at Stonehenge is a very, very special time for anybody that is lucky enough to go. We're very privileged to be able to go and experience that and do our ritual there. It's very amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super jealous. I read up
Another
a little bit
time.
about it. Another time, yeah. Yeah, maybe in a few years when my kids are a
Mm,
little older,
yeah.
I'll get a chance to go. But so can you talk about exactly kind of what goes on at these events? No human sacrifice, right? I know the Romans wrote some nasty stuff about ancient druids
Yeah, we got
bringing
some bad PR then, didn't we?
got some bad PR a few thousand years ago or a couple thousand years ago. Hopefully
Yeah, yeah.
that's not
I think they
true,
had
is
their
it?
own motives for that, really. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
right.
no sacrifices.
Oh,
So
okay.
we actually do a cycle of 3 ceremonies. We do a midnight ceremony, which where we kind of really go within and contact our inner source. Um, uh, Somewhere called the Midnight Mound, which is a short distance from Stonehenge. So we walk in procession to the Midnight Mound and do a kind of a quieter, more reflective ceremony at midnight there. And then we go into the stones for the dawn ceremony, which is absolutely incredible. Um, and we touch the heel stone, which is our link between heaven and earth. We
Oh,
call that renewing the covenant between heaven and earth, so that we live out our lives as that kind of connection between heaven and earth is the idea there. So that's an important part of it. And then we go into the stone circle and we await the dawn. And if it's a good sunrise, then it's absolutely fantastic experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have some clouds killing the vibe.
No, it's a bit harder to kind of work the magic in the rain, but we've done it. You have to be
Just
prepared for everything.
get very in touch with nature as the wind's blowing and
Yeah, absolutely. It can be quite elemental there. Yep.
dumping on you. Does um does the sun shine through at a certain point in the stones
Oh,
type thing?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
On
no,
the summer solstice. Okay.
that is one of the key alignments at Stonehenge is that the sort of one of the main trilithons acts like a portal, and the sun at sunrise on the summer solstice rises up over the heel stone, which is 100 meters or so from Stonehenge, the
Oh,
circle, and it rises up and enters the circle through this portal. So you do actually get, flooded with light
wow.
from the
So
dawn sun.
the heel stone, is that a stone that's further away from Stonehenge and then it's like shining through that into Stonehenge? Is that what's going
The
on?
sun rises up above the heel stone.
Heel stone. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a
Okay.
short distance away. It's not far. So you have the stone circle or a cut, with the main trilithons around, and then just beyond that is the heel stone. And yeah, the alignment is such that when the sun rises over the heel stone, it kind of radiates into
Uh,
the stone circle. Yeah.
that's so cool. Do you guys film this or does that kill the
It has
vibe?
been filmed, yeah. I
Has
mean,
been
we ask
filmed.
people not to bring their own, cameras and photos and so take photos and so on, because we want people to be in the moment, to
Yeah,
experience it
for
rather
sure.
than just constantly,
Taking a million pictures.
yeah, I know. It's a very modern thing, isn't it? But we have, oh yeah, it's been filmed. There's quite often a film crew there from, like a newspaper or TV. We've had TV come and do it. So yeah.
I bet. Do you so maybe I missed it, but do you like camp out there? So you do like a walk and then a midnight procession and then a morning sunrise. You're there all night?
We're there, yeah. So we do the midnight procession, and then so we get back at about 2 a.m., and then we leave at about 3:30, 4 o'clock for the dawn procession, and then we come back, and then we also do a noon procession and ceremony in the full light of the sun. That's the kind of the idea. So we're embracing that
Uh,
full light of the sun at
yeah.
noon. So it's 3 ceremonies. So yeah, it's pretty intense.
And you're there the whole time. Do you have like trailers and stuff that you're camping out in,
Not
or is it
really.
no?
You
You
just sit
just
in a car, try and get half an hour's sleep
oh, in between the processions. I see.
in between
Okay.
the sessions, or drink more coffee, depending on your nature.
I bet that sun feels really good though after staying up all night.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's great. Mm.
That's really cool. So it's like I like that a lot. Like you're syncing up with nature completely with the sun, and now you're ready to go. Do you what how do you feel while you're doing it? And does that feeling carry with you throughout the rest of the month or week or day?
Yeah, it really does. It's hard. It is quite hard to do all three ceremonies. It is you need a kind of level of fitness and a level of determination to do it, and also to kind of keep meditating and keep present and keep it working. But it absolutely does. It's always an absolutely amazing experience. And you often get a lot of insights about your life, and the way you are kind of working, what's working for you in your life, maybe what isn't working, because the point
Mm,
about midsummer is everything's out in the open, everything is there to be seen. It's not necessarily a comfortable time of year because nothing is hidden. It can feel
yeah.
quite exposing midsummer because everything is out there, and it's a time of great energy. Everything's kind of energized, if you like,
Yeah.
the good
So
habits and the bad habits, everything. So but yeah, you get a lot of insight, and definitely it's very energizing for the next little while. Yeah.
yeah. Kind of reminds me of not to get druggy on you, but like psilocybin and those types of things. They kind of bring forward your best and your worst, and you have to deal with it. Is it kind of like that where
I
you
think
can't
that's
hide
probably
from your
fair to
demons
say.
anymore?
Yeah, I think that is right. Yeah, it does. It's a kind of natural, or rather, a non-chemically induced experience that which I think a lot of the work that we do is that is the idea. You are kind of learning about how to um how your pituitary and your pineal glands function, so that you can
Mm,
generate energy for yourself and generate positivity for yourself without relying on external substances. I think that's an important kind of part of what we do in the Druid Order, really, is that understanding. Yeah.
okay, so you guys try and get a more uh, natural high, no pun intended, from nature itself, rather than
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Mm.
Is there
Mm.
like a is there like a code, like no alcohol, no drugs, anything like that in Druidry?
No, we haven't. We don't have rules.
No
Um,
rules.
no rules as like that. It's up to the individual, really. To do what works for them. I think. I think it would be true to say that we don't really support the reliance on external things.
Mm,
Whether that's, yeah, what, and also to sort of learn about what your habits are and try and kind of shake those habits off, because habits, if things become habitual, whether it's nicotine or caffeine or other substances, then that is kind of inhibiting, in a way, your natural expression of light and joy, I would say. So
definitely.
there's no rules, and I like a glass of wine as well as the rest of them. And we're not
Okay.
strict about anything. I think it's
Oh,
it's
really?
Yeah. Mm.
So there's no like dogmatism where that thou shalt go into the forest once a week or something like that.
No, nothing like that. No,
Nothing like that. But
no.
you do have like a set of doctrine or something, correct? Some sort of belief structure, or not really? It's just it's is it an internal
No, not
thing?
really. I
Oh,
I I think belief is a kind of tricky word in itself, you know. That's yeah, that's a whole conversation in itself. But I think that what we do is explore different situations, different understandings of things. We look at, so for example, you know, some people try and put us in the box of being a religion. I would say we're not a religion.
hmm,
We because we have lots of people from different religious backgrounds and, you know, practicing religions that join to become a companion, because what we really do is I think is sort of, you know, look at what works and what doesn't work and try and understand more about our interaction with nature. And some people might approach that from a Buddhist or a Christian or, you know, whatever tradition they come from. But as long as you're kind of open-minded to be, you know, really learning about um, what works for you as an individual and how you can live more in harmony with nature, and you know, help everything to grow to the greater good and support the light in other people is an important thing, as well as, you know, promoting the light in oneself.
hmm.
Those are the things that we support. And, you know, ideas about exactly how you do that are for the individual to discover for themselves, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a or not at all a religion. It sounds like it's more of like a
Mm.
philosophy.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's uh, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I read a little bit about the ancient Druids. Definitely, probably not as much
Mhm.
as the scribe knows, but
Mhm.
they were primarily philosophers and kind of like religious or like priests, right? Of the kind of the Celtic religion of the time.
Yeah, so far as we know, um, they were considered to be sort of leaders and philosophers and kind of negotiators as well, it
Oh,
seems, in terms of, you know, negotiating between different, um, you know, maybe tribes, and also, you know, between, um, and throughout history, really, I think you know, the Druid colleges and Druid schools have existed up until really relatively recently as well. You know, and they've always been about embracing and acknowledging the next wave of tradition or religion, if you like. You know, not opposing it, working with it.
hmm. So they were kind of like the village wise men slash women,
Yeah,
the sages. The
I think that's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Mm,
Okay. Yeah, I
mm,
read when you say negotiator, I remember reading something that they were the one group that could stop a war. So if two groups were going to go at each other, the druids would come out and be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, everybody.
mm.
Let's calm down here. No
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
no need
yeah.
to take it this far."
Mm.
So, what do you take from ancient druidry and um apply to modern druidry? Because I know there's not a ton of records on it. It's mostly like secondhand information, right? I don't know if I don't know much about it, but what do you take from the ancients basically, and use in the modern form?
Well, Druidism was always originally a spoken tradition.
Oh,
Um, it's known that ancient Druids could write in Greek, and, you know, had obviously traveled, and people came also from other countries. I think it's quite interesting that we think thousands of years ago people lived really kind of isolated lives in silos, you know, but that isn't true. There's, you know, jewelry from ancient Britain that's been found in the Egyptian pyramids, and, you know, things from the Middle East that have been found in the earliest phases of Stonehenge. So there was this amazing interaction going on between certain individuals, and of course trade, you know, because Britain had tin. So that was
Mm,
essential for the Bronze Age. So there's this very interesting sort of dynamic of communication that we don't really acknowledge. And I think um, the sort of wisdom and pinnacle, if you like, of that is built into some of the ancient monuments in Britain, like Stonehenge. So you have this incredible knowledge that was actually built into the landscape, and that is why it's so magical. And so the kind of rituals that we do, some of the language is very modern, but some of the concepts that they're built on are ancient, thousands of years old. And in a way, you can see the tradition over thousands of years by understanding the rituals and by understanding how those rituals work in those monuments.
okay. So besides speaking of rituals, besides the summer solstice event, do you do like
Mm.
a winter solstice? That sounds really cool if you do that. But
We do the spring a spring equinox ceremony, which
okay.
is in the centre of London, in the city of London, with all the traffic going round us, and that's kind of interesting because you sort of get all these city people and lorry drivers and everything, and oh right, oh yeah, it's spring, it's the Druids, so it kind of it's quite a hard ceremony to do, but I like doing it there. And then obviously the summer solstice at Stonehenge, and then we do an autumn equinox
Okay.
ceremony as well, which is a really lovely one in Regent's Park in North London, and that's usually the kind of celebrating the harvest. So that's probably the kind of easiest, most relaxed ceremony. And then the winter solstice, we have a party. So.
Uh, it's kind of like a Christmas type thing, except what do you
Yeah.
do? Do you have like a snowball fight, or what's the?
Oh, well, doesn't snow that much in the south of England anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
But we have a bonfire and a meditation outside, and then we come
Okay.
in and have a celebration, have a feast and some dancing. Yeah,
Oh,
so
that
mhm.
sounds really fun. I'm jealous. There's not a lot of druids here in the States. I think there's a few, but not in any concentrated amount where you could
No, I think
really
there's a
get a
few.
big group.
And every year we get people coming over to join our public ceremonies in the UK from the USA. There's definitely interest. We get a lot of inquiries from the USA, and we have companions. We've had people over the years that have moved to London specifically to become a companion and lived in London either just for some years or in some cases for the rest of their lives. It's quite amazing, isn't it? If
That's
you
really
feel that
cool.
connection, then and you're determined, to follow it through. Yeah.
When
Mm.
you say a companion, is that like the name of a druid
Yeah,
follower?
that's what we call our other members of the Druid Order. You join the companionship. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's like yeah. I was raised Mormon, and we call each other brother and sister, and
Oh,
so in
okay.
that, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
a companion. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
like that.
comrade or something if you're a
Yeah, yeah.
communist. Uh, so I want to talk about the science behind um, Stonehenge. Do you know about it? Can you talk about it, or because I
I
know
know
nothing.
something
I
about
should
it.
have done more research, but I'm just gonna let you talk. But yeah, like why are the stones placed the way they are? I know we talked a little bit about it, but could you kind of talk about the wisdom of the ancients? I know it goes back to the Neolithic age, and wasn't it like slowly built over time, and people just added
Yeah,
more and more to it?
yeah. The actual monument itself evolved over 2 or 3 thousand years.
That's crazy.
And it was finished 3,000 years ago or whatever. So it had and it functioned. Well, of course, it's still functioning. It's still being used as
Yeah.
a ritual monument.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible, hasn't it? So yeah, about 3,000 BC were the very earliest phases of it, so that is quite incredible, isn't it? And it was developed as a solar observatory, marker, temple, whatever you want, ritual space and
Yeah.
also a lunar space as well, because there are
Oh,
alignments to the extreme phases of the moon. Because
cool.
yeah, yeah. So it's both a lunar and a solar space. So when you're in there, you experience the energy of it. But there are many people who have also kind of actually nowadays um, studied it scientifically. Um, and it's quite interesting, I think, that it it's been through different phases of people being really fascinated and saying yes, how amazing it is, and then there are other phases of sort of some hardcore scientists saying no, no, what a load of rubbish. And then again, because there was a lot of work done by a man called Alexander Thom, Thom, who did some amazing work. He was an engineer, and he really looked at the alignments, and he developed this principle of the megalithic yard, and looked at how both the pyramids and lots of the monuments in Britain were developed according to this very specific thing called a megalithic yard, and
Cool.
how they're all connected. And he was very popular in the 70s and 80s, and then in the 90s it was like no, no, what a load of rubbish. But now the British Astronomical Society is saying, actually, hang on a minute, there is something in what he's so these things go in and out of fashion, don't they, really? um
Yeah.
and now there's a lot more interest again, and a lot of acknowledgement of the incredible alignments that it does um use and went into the building of it. So you can approach it from that way, certainly, or you can just approach it from going and experiencing it. And certainly from my experience of being in that ritual space during the summer solstice, particularly, it is incredibly powerful. You can feel it becoming a temple of light. It's almost like a kind of giant battery or giant kind of radiant space. Um, so I think everything's possible from a sort of scientific analysis of it to just the experience of it, really.
Just
Yeah.
experiencing it. Yeah, it's really interesting how probably separated cultures kind of built the same kind of stuff. Like
Mm,
I was in, I don't know if you're familiar with Chichen Itza. It's the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico,
mm,
and it's this giant pyramid. And the same thing, right? Where certain times of the year the sun shines just right, and like it
mm.
shows an elephant on the ground, or maybe not an elephant. No, I don't think it's an elephant. It's some creature from South
Creature.
America.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's perfectly aligned with like the
Mm,
stars and all of that stuff.
mm,
And it's fascinating how all these different cultures who were probably separated for by thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years, maybe even hundreds of thousands of
mm,
years, depending
mm.
on when you believe humans migrated across the Bering Strait.
Yeah.
Uh, that how they started building the same stuff
Mm,
dedicated to the stars and the sun and the moon and all of that stuff. But
mm,
I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this, but I wonder if it all stems from either the same super ancient religion, where it's kind of this, worship of nature and of the sun, or if we're all just so similar enough that given enough time and put in the same kind of mindset, we'll build the same stuff. It's fascinating. It's kind of like how the Japanese and the British, they developed feudal systems independently. Like you've got like the knights, and you've got the samurai, and you've
mm.
got like the shogun, and the what would be the equivalent in British, maybe like a duke or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if it's because we're just so similar that we develop the same stuff, but I definitely think, as far as ancient religions go and how uh, like who we truly are as people, I think Druidry is probably pretty close to what the
Mm,
ancients were thinking. Like we're in sync with nature, and if you want to be happy, don't misalign yourself with the universe. You'll
mm,
you'll be in deep trouble. And what do you think? Am I on to something there, or?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is very hard to know exactly because we weren't there, were we?
Yeah,
And there are hints and clues, and whether there was far more interaction and communication than we think is possible from where we are now, or as you say, whether there's a sort of evolutionary process that took us along certain paths, possibly separately, although similar paths. It's very, very difficult to know. But there is this absolute recognition, I think, that it's sort of summed up often in that sort of esoteric phrase of "as above, so below." I think that the solar and the lunar temples are sort of marking places for where we are in the universe and kind of reflect how the stars, we're looking at how do we fit into the universe, both as our social group and us as individuals. And nature does have all the answers, and I think ancient people were far, far smarter than we acknowledge. They had a
yeah.
kind of shared knowledge and observational skills that in many ways we lack now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a big time. Less distractions too.
Yeah.
It'd
Mm.
be hard for millennials or Gen Z to build Stonehenge now. I think that takes a
Yeah.
very certain
And
level of
those real
focus.
social cohesiveness, everybody working together as a group to a same purpose, absolutely everybody really focused, the incredible effort that must have gone into constructing these monuments shows this incredible dedication and group effort.
Yeah. Do you know, or do you think that Stonehenge perhaps had more practical purposes? Like, oh, it's this time of day, or this time of the year. Go plant the well, what grows over there? Wheat? No. Yeah, wheat.
Barley,
Barley,
rye.
there you go. I was trying to think of old world crops, and
Yeah,
yeah, barley,
barley,
right?
rye,
Do you think it was like a
maybe wheat
calendar, maybe, to be like,
later. Well, it does operate as a calendar, but I don't think farmers needed that reminder, really, do you? I mean, farmers really know
it's
what
pretty
they're doing.
obvious.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious when you've lived and grown up, a few generations in a landscape. I think it's a bit insulting to say, oh, they needed Stonehenge as
They
a
needed a
calendar
giant
because they couldn't work it out.
a giant
Yeah,
sunstone or sundial in the middle of the country
yeah.
to
I
figure
think
it
it's
out.
much more likely it was a kind of, enlightening and ritual space that brought, people together to kind of celebrate the cycles and seasons and, give people an experience rather than just a calendar. Although,
Yeah.
there's some evidence that it could be used to predict eclipses.
No
Um,
way.
Yes, yeah, that's part of that interaction between it being a sun um, observatory and a lunar observatory. That does then enable the prediction of eclipses. So it would have been very impressive, wouldn't it, to be able to foretell when these things were going to happen? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be able to construct something
Absolutely, it's
that
phenomenal. We still don't know exactly how they were constructed. That the weight of those stones, there's all these theories about, oh, they were moved on rollers and so on. But I was at Carnac in France, which is another amazing set of monuments last year, and the sort of the archaeologist there was saying, well, you can't actually physically move a stone on rollers that's over a ton, that it just doesn't work.
doesn't
And
work. Yeah.
some of those stones are like 5-6 tons. So they can't, it's still not known by us how that was possibly done.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and don't make a mistake, right? Because once it's there, it's gonna be hard to move. I wonder if they had like a mini Stonehenge and they put it in front and they're like, okay, well, we need to get this just right first, because you'd have to have some kind of record, right, where you'd write it down or something. You can't just kind of feel it out every day, and
Just don't know. We
you
just
don't
don't
know.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Mm.
ancients, they
It's
were pretty
phenomenal. Yeah.
pretty
Mm.
bad record keepers, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, paper didn't last long if they had it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Mhm.
Well, I think that's mostly what I wanted to ask you. Let me pull up the questions here to make sure I got everything that I wanted. Um, yeah, I think I got most of it. So who and when started the Druid Order?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question because the Druid Order's kind of evolved, we would say, over the ages. Um, and it hasn't always been known as the Druid Order. There are
Okay.
different traditions that we look back to being part of and threads that have led to where we are today. The origins of our order, as we understand it today, go back to 1717.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
when John Aubrey pulled together, this particular individual, it said pulled together the sort of remnants of different groups that represented the Druid Order and kind of formed one group. And this was the age of the Enlightenment in Britain. So it was about the first time that really you could say that you were a Druid without being persecuted or killed or because before that it would have been heretical to say that. So it's no coincidence in a way, I think, that was a time when people could come out and say, look,
Yeah.
we can now form a group of Druids and call ourselves Druids. So that's the time that we would say the modern Druid Order was formed. Yeah, and then
Okay.
there have been some very interesting characters that have developed things over that, 300 years. Yeah.
That's really cool. It's like a regathering of the Druids to
Mm.
the sacred grove.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly how we'd put it. Yeah.
And you kind of like he kind of took stuff from all these different groups and tried to reassemble
Yeah, that's
what
right. It was
what
called the
Druidry is.
Gatehouse of Rejoicing, which takes us back to that idea of joy that, we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. So how many of you are there, or can you say, you
Well, it
guys?
is a bit hard to say because there are, a core group of us that are active, on a day-to-day level, and that, is one number, maybe 50, something like that. And then there are other people that have joined. It's very interesting because to public ceremonies, we get people who come that may not have been to a ceremony for 20 years, but they've always considered themselves to be
In their
companions
heart?
and
Yeah.
Druids in their heart. That's right. And they come along to a ceremony. It's like old friends, even though you haven't seen them for that long. So it's kind of interesting. We would say, yeah, they're Druids, but they're not active on a day-to-day level. And of course, not everybody wants to or can live in London, which is where we
Where
have
you're
our
headquartered.
headquarters. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think once you really truly find a way to get in touch with nature, that's something that never really leaves you. And if
Mm.
you put a philosophy to it, and not a belief system, as you say, but
Mm.
what would you call it if it's not a belief system? It's
I think a philosophy and
just
a
philosophy.
tradition is the best way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, yeah, I think that's everything. So, what was the website again? I'll put it in the description down below.
It's thedruidorder.org.
thedruidorder.org.
The
And
Druid Order.
are you
Mm.
accepting new members, or
Yeah, we're always open to accepting new members. As I say, we are based in London, so to become a companion, you would need to come at least once to our headquarters in London. But we occasionally run online courses, so people do.
oh,
Yeah, we have done that. During the COVID pandemic, like lots of organisations, we became more online, and we have run some online courses that have gone very well. So we're open to doing that. But to become, yeah, as I say, kind of one with the companionship, then you would need to come to London for a bit.
you have to do the Mecca to the homeland of the Druids.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Come and
Yeah,
meet us.
yeah. You should do the online thing more. I think that would be cool. Although it's kind of like
Hmm.
counter to probably what you guys are going for, doing things online. But
I think it has it's of value. It can be of value. Yeah, so I think these days it is getting that balance right, isn't it? We don't want to be, just an online organization, but that certainly has its a role to play. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
you don't reject technology. Well, obviously not, because you're here
No.
with me, but
No. Move with the times. We
and
have to
not like the
adapt. That's if there is a philosophy, that's part of it. Adapt, move with the times, embrace, live in the world. Yeah, be part of the sort of, positive forward movement in the world. Yeah.
anything that is good, you're okay with,
Yeah.
regardless of.
Yeah. Anything that supports the light, I would say we're good with. Yeah.
Oh, oh, that's good. And then the festival. I know I asked about this before we did the podcast, but so can people come and watch? I know there's limited space for the procession and things like that, but can people come and watch, or do you not want a bunch of gawkers and stuff hanging out at
Oh
the?
well, the noon ceremony is our ceremony is just in the middle of a kind of normal day in this function and tourism
Oh,
of Stonehenge. So there are lots of people that just turn up at noon, and some of them come because we're there, and some of them are like, "Oh wow, we get an extra show for our money."
pick the right day to come. Do you guys
Yeah,
like dress
exactly.
up? Do you guys dress up like this, or is it much less ridiculous than?
I don't, you look great. I think very good. We wear
Thanks.
white robes because we are reflecting the light. Yeah.
Okay, that's
And
why.
also the idea is that we're not our personality. We're just there, to radiate the light and be part of the group, part of the function. So yeah, we dress
Okay,
up, but
yeah.
not too multicolored.
The ancient druids, they wore white too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay,
We think so, yeah.
probably. Yeah, based on the limited records. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much, Susan. Thanks for taking time out of your night. I know it's getting late there, so I'll let you go to bed. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, I'll
Enjoyed
put the
it.
link to your website down below, and yeah, I highly encourage people to check out Druidry, because I definitely feel we've become detached from nature in a bad way, and I think something
Mhm.
like that is one of the best paths to get back to it,
I think it's a
right?
good way to get back to it. And, I think a lot of companions become, say, practitioners of natural health or get involved in organic farming and kind of natural fit. It's all part of a kind of appreciation and kind of movement towards that, isn't it? I think really, yeah.
Getting
Mm.
back in touch.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah,
we need a lot more of it,
yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
I
Mm.
definitely need more of it. But yeah, if you make an online course, another one, let me know.
Yeah, will
I'll
do.
check it out.
Yeah, yeah, great. Thank you
Okay. Well,
so
thank you so much,
much.
Susan.
Bye.
Bye.